For thousands and more years, humans have heard stories about what happens at death, the tunnel, the light, meeting relatives who have passed on, the life review, the judgment, heaven or hell, reincarnation into another life. And the cycle continues over and over again until hopefully reaching enlightenment and the final ascension. We would like to offer an alternative to this never-ending cycle, perhaps a new idea to some. Humanity is at a crossroads, and each person shall need to decide from this point forward who they wish to be. Planet Earth is going through a cleansing of sorts, one that was foretold eons ago and continues to this day to be the subject of many channeled messages from within the New Age communities. However, very few possess a clear understanding of this forthcoming event. What happens on Earth is very regulated, and this is the way it has been for millennia. This by itself is not necessarily good or bad. It is just the way it is at present, but does affect the freedoms of and choices of mankind. Those who govern humanity do not reside upon the planet itself, but outside and above. This planetary association consists of extraterrestrial groups and races and governing councils, forming a cooperative federation in charge of overseeing and managing the activities of humanity, while making decisions that directly affect the welfare of those on the planet. This association of galactic representatives in attendance of planet Earth have elected to guide mankind into a set of circumstances that will necessitate each human being determining for themselves what position they choose to select. There have been many names and interpretations of this predicted development: the rapture, the reset, the cleansing, the harvest, and more recently, depopulation. Some see it as an ascension, others as an extermination, and even others as a homecoming. We have not come to tell you what to do or what not to do. We have come to share our wisdom, our love, and our support with you, these great and powerful beings known as the human race, and perhaps awakening some to a new understanding, a moment of truth, if you will, in the recognition that all knowledge leads to wisdom, And wisdom is the foundation for integration and unity and the expansion of the all. Hello, my name is Aquinasophia, and with this woman's permission, I am borrowing this body to share my story with those listening. The name Aquinasophia was given to me by the guide who sent me to you today, as the frequency sound is a match to the forthcoming information. I come to tell you about a tiny world known as Caelum, which means sky realm or heaven in your ancient language. As the name implies, to one observing from beyond, this little world would appear to consist of only sky, no solid matter or earth. However, the gases and particles that compose this outer atmosphere act as a screen, shielding the tangible communities within. The complete composition of Caelum is fully malleable to conscious intent, creating worlds within worlds. As I speak to you now, I reside in what may be seen as one of the between worlds, referred to by council as the sphere of contemplation, from where I am asked to introduce the Caelum story to you. Caelum was formed through the creative thought projected forth from a memory network of those who had millennia ago participated in the formation and much later the unanticipated downfall of planet Earth. Those who took part in that tragic experiment, after an infinity of futile attempt at repairing the mistake, came together as a soul complex to recreate the genesis of what had once been a sacred space for humanity to dream its dreams in safety and freedom of expression. And once that dream was satisfied, to then dissolve the energy consumed for another to harvest and compile into their own fantasy dream for the fulfillment of soul and the expansion of the one. The realm of Caelum is a mirror reflection of what planet Earth was meant to be in its very beginnings. Although heavily influenced by the terrestrial languages and stories of Earth, those historical changes brought to humanity will never be allowed to overtake this realm, as it is well protected from the darker elements that were able to influence and finally dominate the world of humans. Caelum is, as was Earth in her day, considered by those in our galaxy to be a playground for the ET races to slip into a body or biosuit alien to their own in order to have an adventure not possible in their own lives or realities. Star races from all over the universe and beyond come to this realm for not only the adventure, but for the learning they can get from participating in difficult or unique circumstances and events that they would never face in any of the higher frequency worlds. The star being is then able to choose the physical frequency, density, and story it wishes to experience and take on any form it wishes, from that of a huge, imposing cat being down to an elfin gnome, from a river to the tiny flying creatures sitting on the rocky shore, or perhaps the rock itself. This is the realm of imagination, where anyone can become whatever they wish, form or formless, from human to tree, and in any time frame, from the beginning of life to the future of existence itself. Those who occupy this heavenly realm of Caelum are not called humans, but referred to as histriones. And their bodies are formed of this same luminous property. And each individual consciousness, a component of the whole. The incarnate histriones is much as an incarnate human on earth, yet free from the harsh restrictions of density and control imposed upon a human being residing on earth at this time. When I first considered my incarnation, I contemplated long and hard about what I hoped to accomplish during this life. Several things came to mind. I had originally decided to incarnate on Earth, but the stories of suffering and control brought me to consider differently. I did not wish to take the chance of being caught into a cycle of lifetime after lifetime, rebirth after rebirth, which happens so often to humans on Earth. So I chose instead to come to Caelum for my incarnate journey. After various scripts and scenarios, I settled on that of an 18th century human male living during the American Revolution. Rather than beginning this life as a baby and going through all the growing up years as a boy, I chose to begin this story as a 16-year-old farm boy living in Virginia. My parents were very kind to me and my younger sisters, but the work was very hard. My family grew corn for food, both for the family and animals, and used the husks for filling mattresses and cushions. I was a very curious lad, hated the farm work, and wanted to get away and travel to other lands. When I learned the local militia was looking to recruit boys my age as soldiers. I left the farm to discover more about it. 6 months later, becoming a part of the Continental Army on a 1-year enlistment as a rifleman in light infantry, and from there a soldier in the 1st Continental Regiment under the command of Commander-in-Chief George Washington. The Army promised to pay $29 a month, and I decided I could help my family by sending money home each month. This did not turn out to be true, however, and I was lucky to get $5 or $6 at the most. My first enlistment was to be for 1 year, but as the war intensified, extended on into the next 3 years. Life as a soldier was very difficult and tragic. We lacked enough food and water, and conditions were very harsh, with damp shelters and disease taking as many lives as the battles, as I was forced to watch boys and men, younger and older than myself, falling ill with smallpox and typhus from the unsanitary conditions. As the seasons progressed, I became despondent and only wanted to go back home. I thought daily about my parents and little sisters and feared for their safety. All I hoped for was the end to suffering and yearned for rest and a good meal. Nearly 3 years to the day after leaving home to enlist, I became sick with fever and a painful headache and rash and began vomiting. My body was in such pain it was nearly impossible to move. In days, more than half of the men in my regiment became ill with these same symptoms of smallpox and began dying one by one. Just after a week later, one dark, cold night, I had a strange sensation of rising upward from my cot. As I rose up and up, I began to feel warmer and less pain until there was none. In the distance, I could see a light, a bright light, and felt myself moving toward it. The closer I came to the light, the more peaceful I became. It was then that I remembered. Instantly, I remembered who and where I was, and that the life I just left was only a dream. I was completely shocked as I realized everything I had been living, all of the emotions and suffering, all of the others I had interacted with, my family, my friends, everyone and everything, was only part of a script I had created, my story. It seemed so real, the fears, the longings for home, the sadness. Now here I was, completely safe and comfortable, back into the same place I had just left. The life I lived took place over years, and yet here I was, back a moment after I left, in an ecstasy of fulfillment. And yet, oddly, in the recesses of my thoughts was an electrifying and intoxicating eagerness to do it all over again. This is what your planet Earth can once again become. A place of dreams rather than a prison of lies. Once the planet can be cleansed of the elements that altered and polluted humanity and the environment, it can then again return to its purpose. Meanwhile, those wishing a physical incarnation can discover all the mysteries and magic available throughout the galaxy on any of the thousands of planets and realms, including that little heavenly sky world of Caelum. Much love to you.